Hi, how are you? For these past few days, I have been thinking about marital advices for a few different reasons. I get back to them in the end of this video. But what's your favorite or least favorite marital advice? Please comment down below. Here are my 12 marital advices that came to mind at first glance and what I think of them. Well, first one is you have to give them a chance if they try. This was something that my first boss told me when I was ending a long-term relationship when I was working for her. And it sounded odd even then. You have to give them a chance if they try. Well, if they try and nothing happens, do I still have to give them a chance because they try? And this kind of a think of trying, where else in the world, in your workplace or in your life in general, it's enough to try. You have to succeed. Trying is not enough. It's a good start, but we can't get very far with that. Plus, this concept of trying is easily a manipulative tool. I'm trying, you cannot divorce me. I'm trying, you cannot quit. I'm trying, you cannot be mad at me. Of course I can if you do something stupid over and over and over again. So, in my world, trying gets you just this far. And then you have to succeed. Like in your work, you have to succeed. And in other parts of life, you have to succeed. You will not be paid for trying. Something that's like a continuance of this is they're trying their best. Well, not always. If they are out to manipulate you, they are not trying their real best. They are just doing just enough to prove that you cannot do anything because they are trying, then they're doing their best. But even if they are not masterminds in manipulation, it might be that unfortunately their best is not enough anymore. If you met them in your 20s, life was simple and having fun was good enough. But when you're at your 30s, 40s, you have a mortgage, you have a job, you have small children, you have a mother-in-law from hell. Your best is just not good enough if it doesn't grow when you grow. So what was best for them is good, but what's your best now and it's adequate is a totally different thing. So unfortunately, if this happens, if one person grows and the other one doesn't, and takes responsibility and the other one doesn't, then their best might not be enough anymore. And just as there's no way around it. Number 2 is there is something good in everybody. I don't think so. This has been talked all around in the media and everything else, that there is something good in everybody. Well, no, there is not. Or if there is, that's not good enough. I might bring up a few examples. Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, Charles Manson. If the good in them is that they love dogs, for example, then they're not there is something good in everybody category good. No, I don't think so. Loving dogs is not enough. So there might be a chance that you are married to a guy or to a woman that don't go with the category that there is something good in everybody, or that something is just not enough. Usually when people say this, they continue. Remember what you fell in love with. that's another thing, and that's a little bit more complicated issue. Because I can tell you that when I started my first long-term relationship, I didn't love them. I didn't even know what love was. I didn't know how am I supposed to feel about myself and towards them. So what can I remember if I simply didn't love them? And that was then. 10 years later, it can be totally different. Plus, people even fall in love for first impressions, for simply wrong information. Have you ever been in a date with a man or a woman who explains that they have a little bit more pompous title and a little bit more income than they actually have? Well, that applies to everything. So they are much more nicer and much more attentive than they are in real life. So if you fell in love for that pouring of nice things, that might be false information. That in half a year or a year, you know it's not true. So is there any real basis on try to remember what you fell in love with concept? I don't think so. Not if it was 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. People change and you get wiser. Thank God for that. Number 3 is yet again classic. Give it some time. It'll work out. Well, if I am in the point of my life that I'm coming to complain to you that everything is going wrong, I have given it some time. Believe me. And the other question is, how much time should I give? In this world? Weeks, yes. Months, maybe, depending on the situation. Years, not so good. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. No. Time is precious. Time is the only thing we have. So I am not going to give them time. Of course, there is a different level of things with this kind of giving time. So if they are mourning their mother's death, then give them time. Reasonable amount, like a year. But if they are not doing anything around the house, then months are plenty, years are too much, and 20, 30 years, you are not going to be a maid in your own house. That's for sure. So give it some time is, again, not so good advice. Number 5. It takes 2 for tango. And I heard people that say this. Yes, they mean that if there is a fight, then you are guilty as well as the other one. Well, it's not that like that. Nope. One person is well capable of breaking the whole hell loose, calling you names, shouting, making up problems, making up what you have said and done, and you don't have to do anything. You can sit there like Dalai Lama and take it. But they are responsible and guilty of everything. That's totally possible, especially if you are with a person who has a narcissistic tendencies or something like that. So no, it doesn't take 2 for tango. And they can fight and they can pick up a fight all by themselves. You don't need to participate in that in any way. Another thing that is linked for this that I have heard very, very many times. Look in the mirror. Well, I'm looking. They mean by saying looking in the mirror that if something is wrong, you are responsible. It's your fault. If not totally, then partly, at least. It's your fault. If we go back like 30 years, if a husband fooled around, slept around, everybody asked, what does she do? So if it was the wife's fault, that man is cheating her. And in this world, it seems kind of an unrealistic question. But that's the basis of it. Plus, if we think about what they really mean by that look at the mirror, they mean that, shut up, it's your fault. Everything that goes wrong is your fault. And somebody that gives you that kind of advice is not a friend of yours. But let's move forward. Give up. If it's about money, give up. This was advice that my therapist gave to me in therapy, which I think that I talk in another video. But no, I don't give up. If you don't have money coming to your ears, and if you don't have a $1 million inheritance coming, don't give up. Money is something that people constantly fight about. And I have been in a situation where I was reminded of this fact like daily, that I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, but I did not give up. And I thank myself for that now. I wouldn't have this home. I would have left penniless. So never tell something or somebody to give up. Like in real life issues, in real life things. That's not your place to be. Okay, if it's a reasonable amount of money, then we talk about different things. But if it is like a marital agreement and somebody is about to lose their house, then that's not your place. And that's very, very, very irresponsible. I cannot in the world understand what the therapist was thinking when she told me that she thinks that I should give up and sign the papers, sign all I have saved all my life to that person that is asking me of that. That is bullying, that is extortion, everything. But that's a world-class bad advice. I don't know if anybody has given you that advice, but because it was given me by my therapist, it's in my memory like carved in stone. I cannot forget that. It was so stupid. But let's move on. Number 6. Don't give up, but try. Well, what is quitting? That's the first question. Of course, these people mean that if you quit on your marriage. But I would see it differently. Don't quit on your life. You have to take care of yourself. You have to live your life. And the marriage is a part of it, but it can be changed. And whoever thought that getting a divorce is quitting, haven't maybe gone through that. Because anyone who has ended a long-term relationship or ended a marriage and gotten a divorce knows that it's not an easy way out. It's not just quitting. It's very hard. But it's better to quit on a marriage than quit on your life, if those are the two options that you have. So that's why I resent this. Do not quit, but keep trying. Number 7. Forgive and forget. It would only be so easy, but it isn't. I think that this concept of forgiving is a little bit overused now. Like you can just forgive everything and then you live happily ever after if you are in a relationship, or happy otherwise. If you just forgive everybody. Well, I'm not a forgiving person. That's in my backbone. I can't help it. I can try to soften my views, but I'm not the forgiving type. And if there is things that I can forgive, I forgive them. And it comes naturally. I don't have to decide to forgive. And I think that this kind of a deciding to forgive is not real. It's you cannot decide what you feel. You cannot decide that I'm not like nagged about this anymore. I can decide that I don't bring it up in the conversation for a while at least, but does it go away from my heart? No, it doesn't. And there is another unpleasant thing with this forgive and forget concept, is that people think that if they say that they're sorry, they have to be forgiven. And that is a very odd concept. If you say you're sorry, that's fine, that's good. Apologize, be sorry, try to make amends. But that's what you do if you have hurt me. We all know that. But it doesn't change the fact that how I feel. No matter what you say, or if you are upside down, it doesn't change the fact that I am hurting. And it's not automatic, and it doesn't turn the tables so that I am responsible for you doing something then I am supposed to. No. Now I'm mixing things. So it turns, you did something bad, and this kind of a forgive and forget concept turns it so that I have to do something because you did something bad, and if I don't forgive, I'm a bad person. And it doesn't work that way. That's absurd. If somebody is mean to me and then say they're sorry, it's not enough. I can forgive. If I forgive, if I don't, then I don't. Then it was something that I cannot forgive, no matter how many times you say you're sorry. Oh, it's terrible. Well, I hate that kind of I'm sorry persons. It's not enough. And it's not like clean slate when you just say that you are sorry. Well, not. Number 8. You have to endure. And usually this continues. Women have to endure. It might have been true in agriculture societies when men and women got married and they had a house and the fields and the animals and it was their livelihood. So of course then you have to endure a little bit more because you actually don't have a choice if you don't want to murder your husband or wife. But does it apply nowadays? Nope. There are different kind of compromises. There is compromise. Like I said, compromise. So I want something and you want something and then we do something in between. For example, if my husband would like to have a holiday hiking in Norway and I would love to be in Italy where it's warm. So we cannot do both. That's obvious. But then we make a compromise that, okay, every other year we be in Norway hiking and every other year we be in Italy where it's warm. And that's a compromise. So I can have something and I give something and we're both happy. Then there is the concept of sacrifice. So if you want to have everything and it's not possible, like it usually is not, then you think and you sacrifice something. I have made sacrifices in my life and I do not regret them. Sacrifice can be like if mountain climbing is your thing and you want to have children and they are small, then you realize that I have to sacrifice this dream of mine to climb mountains for the 5 or 10 years. If you are not extremely lucky and have nannies coming down your ears, but normally it's not like that. So you have to sacrifice something. Many women sacrifice their career like it would have been without children when they have children. And that's a personal choice. And that's a decision that you make after really thinking it through. So that's a different thing. But then there is this concept of enduring. What is that? That somebody just does something wrong all the time and you just endure. What happens? If you are married to a really nasty spouse, then what happens is that when you endure the A, then it's B, then it's C, then it's D, and soon enough you'll be in such a small hole that you can hardly breathe. And these things happen when they have something they want more and more and more and more and more and more until you are no more. You may live, but your spirit is gone. And that's something that I do not wish for anyone. If you have a spouse that you have to endure and they don't see your pain, then that's the likely outcome. So think really carefully before giving this advice and before following this advice. So help me God. Well, let's move forward. It's a decision to love your spouse, not just a feeling. If you follow this, you are in for mental problems quite soon. Like, think about it really. If you know what love feels, if you have fallen in love, it's a feeling. It's something that happens, they say it's chemistry, but in your heart. So can you actually decide to recreate that feeling? No, you don't. All the world's therapists say to us that get in touch with your feelings and acknowledge your feelings and put names to your feelings and really like search them too. And at the same time, the couples therapists say that you can decide to love your husband or your wife. Well, that's absurd. Like, make up your minds, therapists, please. But in the real world, if I decide to love somebody and they are not worth it, and I have actually, my heart has stopped loving them like years ago, if it ever loved them, and I begin that this is my feeling, I love them, and actually I hate them at the same time, and then I'm in this denial with myself, then actually I hate them, and I tell everything that I love them, and I hold their hand, and I act like I love them, and it doesn't lead to any good solution because I go crazy. And then I smile and say, honey, yes, I love you. And no, thank you. I do not want to act like I feel something that I don't feel. I'm way past that. I'm too old for that. Life is too precious for that. And time is limited for that. So that was the decide to love your spouse. Number 10. Marriage is not about finding the right person, but being the right person Well, everything that I said in the previous advice, I could say with this. Plus, this has this look in the mirror aspect. So if you do not find the right person, you are the wrong person. So make yourself be the right person for somebody. So make yourself be somebody else that you are not. That's a awful idea. Again, to tell people, especially women who usually take all advice seriously, to be somebody else, to be the right person for them. That's yet again totally absurd if you think about it. It doesn't lead to any good. So I don't know where this came from. It's a bad advice. And it yet again takes away from your mental health. And then there is the old women's advice. You have made your bed, so lay in it. You have made your mistakes, so you will live up the consequences. But I have made mistakes, plenty of them. I have made big mistakes and I have made smaller mistakes. I have made mistakes for a lifetime or 2 lifetimes. But I think that it's not a fool who makes mistakes, but it's a fool who doesn't learn from them. So yes, if you have made your bed and it's badly made, then make it again and try again. If you made some mistake, it's not mandatory to stay in it. It just isn't. Not in this reality that we live now. Of course, there are circumstances where you can't leave, but you have to be true to yourself at least. And know that what you do in 10 years or 20 years, if you cannot do anything sooner. Well, let's get the last one. Number 10. Everybody has their problems. There are no happy marriages. Well, this one is quite devastating. But we know that there are happy marriages. We all have seen those old people that walk hand in hand and are really happy with each other. And they talk very lovingly about one another and they know what the other one thinks because they have been together for 60 years. And they have been happy. They have had their ups and downs and they have been happy the whole time. They are truly right for one another. And I consider my marriage to be a happy one that I am now. So it's not a fiction. It's true. The most awful thing with this kind of advice that people really believe it. I have heard people that are in bad marriages say that it's okay because there are no happy marriages. Everybody is going through something. But that's not true. Plus there is bad marriage and there is bad marriage. So if there is, it's easy example to say violence. I can tell you that is not in every marriage. It is in quite many, I know, but it's not in every marriage. So it depends on how bad the situation is. But there are happy marriages, I can guarantee you that. And if you stay in a bad one, in a bad relationship, the main downside is that you can never meet the right one. The love of your life might walk by and you don't even notice them because you are in a relationship. So that's your status. So I think that there are no happy marriages is the last straw. It takes a hope away from people, and if we don't have anything else, we should have hope. That keeps us alive. But that was my bad marital advices and what I think of them. But why you shouldn't give marital advice to anybody. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what is a fight in their household. Is it just words? Is it yelling? Or is it physical violence? Do these fights take place in once a year or once a 5 years, or every month, or every week, or every day? We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We never do. And usually women and children, and sometimes men, don't tell. They try to deny that things are bad to the last minute they can. They don't want to say that they have made this mistake and married the wrong person. That is awful. That is not what they thought they would be. And if you think that, of course you know what's happened. Well, there was, I think in US, was the architect. That was a family man, nice house, family, promising career, very like stand-up guy. And in his spare time, he murdered women. Or so they suspect. Not very nice guy. And people say that they didn't know. They didn't see it coming. Then how do you see this kind of a family crisis evolving slowly? One example of this is that I encountered not few years ago, quite many years ago, but I was taking my daughter to a kindergarten. And in the lobby, there came her friend and her mother. And her mother acted like totally normally, like every morning, good morning, and she had her hair done and makeup on and everything, and she had a bleeding wound in her face. And I couldn't say anything. I acted like normal, even if I saw that there was this wound on her face, and she didn't even try to put anything in it. It just was there, and it was bleeding constantly. So her husband had hit her before she left for kindergarten. And she acted totally cool. Nothing happened. So, would I tell her to endure? No. Would I tell her to give it some time? Look in the mirror. No marriage is happy. No. You never know what's going on. And that's why we shouldn't give this kind of advice until we know what's really going on. And even if we ask, they probably won't tell. So if you're not absolutely sure what you are talking about, don't convince them to stay. Don't make them feel bad about themselves, like they are the wrong person or they are wrong. That's not fair. Next cruel fact is that in 2022, there were 89,000 women killed in the world, murdered. 55% of them were killed by a family member. So almost 50,000 women were killed by a family member, which means spouse, father, son. This concerns the whole globe. And if we take it per day, it's 133. And the worst part is that this is not all. Because in many countries, killing your wife or your daughter is not a crime. So they are not in these statistics because they are not registered anywhere. Plus, of course, the fact that the girls that are born are maybe not registered in anywhere, so there is no knowledge that they even exist. So if they cease to exist, nobody cares. But this was the whole globe. And now, of course, we think that there was the developing countries, so it's not so bad in the Western world. But it is, if you think about it. In UK, 88 women were killed by their spouse or ex-spouse in a year. It makes 1.5 women per week. And that's quite much. But on top of that, there is 117 women that were killed in a suspicious circumstances. So it's not really known who murdered them or killed them or what led to them. So it may well be the double. And if it is like almost double, it's 3 women per week. 3 women per week killed by a spouse or ex-spouse. And that much. And on top of that, of course, there are children that are killed in these same instances or elsewhere. And children from 0 to 16, 1 is killed every week in UK. And 28 of them are from 0 to 1. So they are babies that are killed due to neglect or abuse. And these go hand in hand very easily. So if somebody, let's say a household head, gets in this kind of rage, they kill the babies and the moms at the same time. And that's something that we should think about. And this whole concept of 55% of women are killed by family members. So, like really, if you're afraid that somebody is going to kill you, if somebody is going to rob you and mug you and kill you, if you're afraid that you'll be killed, murdered, the most dangerous place is your home. So, after this, would you take a chance that the one that you are giving the advice to is one of these women that end up in these statistics? I find this like shocking every year. Every year that these statistics come out, and I see that the worst place for a woman is their home. And what kind of societies do we live that this is not talked about? There is nothing done to prevent this. So yeah, if somebody says that they are going through a rough patch, tell them to, okay, tell me more. Tell me more, and if you want help, I help, or I find out who can help. I know this is a kind of grim subject, and somebody calls me a feminist, which is true. But despite of it, I hope you have a great day, and I see you soon. Goodbye.